Hi, my name's Tom Kidd. I'm the Director of Technical Services and Organizational Support for Provincial Lands and Forestry. Today I would like to introduce a video we produced. It gives a bit of a description of technical services and shows where we fit into the organization. Technical Services has two primary functions. The first function is related to the support for Provincial Lands and Forestry. That is the development of standards, let it be underground, overhead, or metering, the introduction of new material into the system, subdivision design work, all in a central organization. We also deal with external agencies such as the CEA, the Canadian Electric Association, as well as the ESA, the Electrical Safety Authority. All that provides support for Provincial Lands and Forestry. The second function is regards to the reliability of the distribution system. Our distribution planning group develops planning specifications, does power quality solutions and reviews, as well as does all the protection settings for the equipment and system performance for the overall reliability of our system and customers. I see technical services as a very close relationship with the field, very hand in glove. We use the field as our eyes and ears of issues, and we have a lot of background, a lot of depth for some of the engineering and technical aspects of our business. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. If I can use an analogy, it'd be like an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is what we see in the day-to-day activities, what the field sees, and what's really going on is the 90% of the work that's below the waterline. Using that iceberg analogy, it's all the behind-the-scenes work, are dealing with external agencies and standards development and research and system performance issues. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and the field really sees the end product and benefits from that. I hope you enjoy this video.
You're going to see here today is myself and Gary are going to be connecting ERAs, electronic recording and meters, to the different feeders at the Wellesley DS. Technical Services requests that we connect these to monitor and record the loading on each feeder. We'll take the existing ERAs that are hanging on the feeders and download the data onto our laptops. Then we'll take that information and we'll send it off to Technical Services for them to evaluate. The purpose of it is for Technical Services to have an accurate read on what the load is on each particular feed.
The information that they gather has a massive impact on what we actually do. We actually take the information that they're getting from their ERAs and implement them into a model, which gives us basically a simulation of our distribution system, and then we make protection settings based on that information. We look at the direct impact of something on our distribution system, either it be a new generation coming online or load transfer.
Without our involvement in these planning activities, we could potentially see equipment overloads in the field, which could cause unnecessary burnout of conductors. We could see equipment not operating properly. With the tools and technology that we have in place, we're able to make sound decisions.
Our group does do a lot of distribution design work, but it's from a central location. We apply the underground distribution standards, and we use those to create an optimal subdivision design.
We're actually assessing outside of the subdivision to the whole area, so all the supply feeds that may be incorporated in that one subdivision. We're looking at how we can efficiently supply without impacting any of our voltage conditions on the feeder.
Like when an ADET or a field guy gets a work spec and he just sees that to put a fuse or that they're putting a recloser in, that back here we're running all these simulations and coordination studies to figure out what fuse should be going there and what the recloser settings should be.
If we didn't provide our services on any one of these planning projects, there could potentially be standards not being followed to what they need to be, but ultimately we could be impacting our customers. They could be seeing dimming lights with large loads coming on, or experiencing outages, which we don't ever want our customers to experience.
Without our efforts, the work would get done, but it would be inconsistent throughout the province, and it might not have the planning input, which could lead to power quality issues or other issues to the distribution system.
With the technology changing in the field, it's nice to have the younger people that are up on the changes and the advances in metering. And yeah, I certainly use technical services. I'd say every week I'm talking to either Matt or Darren or Mancy down at Technical Services. They've researched it quite in depth, and they know when we have questions, they're excellent to get back to us and answer the question. They're great at troubleshooting for us. We certainly rely on tech services to solve our issues that we have in the field and to provide us with a good quality product that we need. And in this case, for complex metering, they certainly have.
So we do get a lot of calls from MDATs in the field. So let's say when they're commissioning a metering installation, they can call us up at any time and we can answer their questions. Or if they have any issues any field-related issues. We also deal with other things such as investigation of meter failures. Then there is approval of new equipment. So for example, primary metering units, so the CTs and the PTs that they're using, we would go through the approval process of it. So much like distribution standard, we would look at, see if they're CSA and ESA approved.
Our group here basically maintains the database. We take all the different sources that come in, whether it be mobile, whether it be from CAD groups, whether it be from the ADAT population, and we massage it into a way that makes it readily accessible for the rest of the company. The different user groups are our ADATs, our engineering studies groups, our metering groups, GORMs, we have people of forestry, as well as the planning groups. Having data of this type at your fingertips allows you to make decisions from your desk or from the cab of your truck that helps you to increase your performance. About 6 years ago, we were mandated by the OAB to patrol 1/6 of our total assets every year. So we started out with the impression that we had 1.2 million poles. We quickly realized that we're approaching 2 million assets on the distribution side, specifically just for poles. We also have transmission information and forestry information that is being leveraged by the Geographic Information System, which we refer to as the GIS. We have a program that has evolved over the last 7 or 8 years where we collect asset and condition information for distribution, transmission, and forestry. This system allows us to integrate asset information with GIS and SAP into one robust database that the company can access. So the GIS gives us a very definitive idea of the location of the asset as well as the type of defect. So the planning group uses that information to bundle work packages together. Yeah, this system allows us to plan our projects more efficiently. So we're trying to reduce the number of truck site visits so that we don't replace one pole in one location and return a week later to replace an asset 50 feet away. So we're trying to group our assets spatially, and that allows us to get increased efficiencies. If you're a lineman, for example, having pole information on a storm, say you're from a different area, normally you would be sent to locate a switch where there's an outage. We've loaded the data into the Garmin units. It allows you to enter the switch number, and it takes you there by turn. Technical Services is constantly looking for ways to be innovative, to take this data and deploy it in easy-to-use, meaningful ways. So whether you're in your boat, whether you're on a snowmobile, whether you're flying in the chopper, whether you're in the cab of your truck, having information that is as near to real time as possible.
When it comes to Regulation 2204, Tech Services is a major player with respect to interpretation of that document. Tech Services does produce a HODS document which covers, in layman's terms, to ADATs and linemen the interpretation and the minimum requirements of Reg 2204, and we consult every day with linemen and ADATs who have questions about meeting the regulation. The field will always come to Tech Services with challenges, whether those challenges are non-standard or they're material challenges or other just general products and questions. These challenges and these problems are reviewed by Tech Services, and that's how we provide support and value to our organization. that ADET may come in with a problem and make one comment to me, but there's a whole team that solves that problem so that when the ADET, say an ADET on the other side of the province runs into the same problem, they're able to do it to a standard, do it safely, and do it the most cost-effective way.
Our distribution planning group looks after putting out the fires that happen day to day in the field. So we're looking at short-term planning solutions, whether it's resolving power quality issues, resolving loading issues on feeders, and dealing with our field contacts to resolve issues. But we do also get into the long-term planning where we deal with larger scale project with DGs where protection settings need to be approved for those customers, but also in the subdivision world where we're connecting thousands and thousands of homes, our group is looking at the overall picture and what we can supply in those situations.
On the Omnia project, we had several unique challenges, including oversized conductor, long spans, which are where our wood poles wouldn't support it, as well as DGs going in. So we had to manage all those different factors.
This pole, as you see it in front of us here, was originally designed with 7.5 feet of separation between the 44 to allow for conductor gallop. We don't have any known cases of that in our area. So when we go to redesign this, they'll look at decreasing the separation between the 44 circuits from 7.5 foot separation down to 6 feet separation to allow for decreased pole height. There may be the requirement to increase the separation to the rural underbuild because of the sag of the 795. And in addition to the transformer weight, there's also the bell cables on this pole. So our standard 75-foot class 1 that we have in front of us is insufficient by today's standards. So we'll be in touch with tech services to have them assist us in completing a pole class calculation to ensure that the pole we replace this with is of suitable class. One of the driving factors of why we're replacing these KMS poles with composite poles is the extensive woodpecker damage. The pole in front of us here has been filled twice already. As you can see, there's 2 holes that have been filled with the epoxy, and on the back side the woodpeckers have been added again, and there's a couple new holes there as well. So replacing these poles with wood poles just doesn't make sense due to the cost of the poles themselves and the cost and the labor to install the hole and do all the transfers. So they've decided locally to replace these poles with composites.
So Tech Services was responsible for developing the specification for the composite pole. They're responsible for reviewing the strength of the poles along with the associated materials for the pole. We then created the standards in which everyone sees in our overhead standards books today. When Tech Services introduces any material, there's a ton of work that goes into it. The field only sees the end product and usually say to us, well, why couldn't we get this 2 years ago? But we do a lot of review of testing, pilot projects, review of specifications, writing of specifications, the tendering process, and then writing the actual standard that gets released to the field.
Within a 3-kilometer stretch of Crosby TS, we do have 3 10-megawatt DG projects on the go. Each of those projects required a 1-kilometer expansion of the 44 to get to their sites. The M1, M2 feeder feeds one customer. It's a large crushing facility in the Perth area, Omnia, and they're actually being currently backfed out of Smith Falls TS. So Tech Services were involved with doing our load studies, our planning group as well. They look at the load that's currently on the M1 out of Smith Falls to see if it'll support the load of Omnia and whether a transfer can be done.
Our group's role is kind of unique within technical services because we provide an actual design role similar to what the field does. However, we do it in a centralized fashion. So we're dealing with developers in Ottawa, Essex, Kenora. So what we're trying to do is drive consistencies with the way subdivisions are handled throughout the entire province. In the case of Stouffville, it's a large area. So what we need to do is we're working with multiple developers, but we work with the DX planning group in order to provide a design that's optimal and also gives us what we need in order to make sure it's fed properly.
I guess 10 years, there's been so much growth in Stouffville here that they've, just in the last year, we've had to put another bank in at Ringwood to accommodate all the growth. Ringwood DS was expanded to probably another 40% of its capacity to accommodate all the growth, whether it's residential and commercial. Yeah, and there's still more to come here yet. Tech Services helped us out a lot of the old infrastructure that we had to deal with in replacement. A lot of substandard stuff that now we had to bring up to our standards. Tech Services says because it was different, they had to design us a lot of the egress of the station to get out to our main line. The egress would be the point of the exit of the station to our cables and that get out to our main line, and the design that it has to take. But any of our construction that has to go on, whether it's overhead or underground, there's a design that has to be approved, and they will do that design for us.
This is one of the many examples on this job where we've had to get a hold of technical services for a non-standard application. The line here fly taps, which means the lines tap but not on a pole, they tap mid-span. And this existing pole does not meet standards for clearances, and it's just not something that would meet Regulation 2204. So technical services, regardless, are going to need to spec for us what the clearances between conductors are, and actually all 4 poles surrounding this intersection, and the spacing and the height of those poles. So right now you'll see a tower crossing where we have one 44 circuit and one underbuild circuit going underneath the tower line on cross arms. And we now need to get a second 44 circuit on those poles. So we go to technical services and they're helping us with span length, with clearances, and just a standard period, because our standard book does not show 2 44 circuits on cross arms.
A lot of things regarding our standards, our policies, our procedures that doesn't capture all the situations that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. And my role is there to facilitate, to help them get through those hurdles and to move the project along. I'm the single point of contact for all ADETs, SDETs, lines, FVCs. I take phone calls, I get emails, they have questions that I need to respond to help them move through a phase of a project or get over a hurdle that they're encountering on that particular day. So my whole function, 100% of my job, is supporting the ADET, supporting the field in order to move projects along.
In Newmarket projects and Metro Lines projects, we deal with Vince on a pretty much daily basis. For non-standard requests, for things that aren't captured in the distribution standards books, he's our gateway to dealing with real estate when our standard offer to grant document doesn't cover the situation. If we need to deal with legal, with getting any kind of a letter written up, Vince is the man.
I think the rest of the lines of businesses in our company really only see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see all the upstream work that our group is putting into making day-to-day operations and long-term planning solutions happen effectively. The efforts of technical services in the back end ensure that we're making the field's work, being the linemen and the ADETs, we're making their jobs safe, and we're also making their jobs operate as smoothly as they can.